Hello and welcome to the 31st and final installment of Aaron Walker Art Talk. For the last episode, I am joined again by Troy Worden. Troy, for this episode, you have chosen Nietzschean Iconography. Do you want to go ahead and explain why?
Sure. I chose the piece because I thought it perfectly summed up a lot of key points in Nietzsche's philosophy, and also added in a twist we usually don't expect. So, for instance, the fact that you have the harp, I think it references the god Apollo, and the fact that you have a cluster of grapes, I think that represents Dionysius, the god of wine. And I think both of those symbols, the Apollonian and the Dionysian, form the key of Nietzsche's first work, which is about the two different modes that art can take. I also really appreciated the hammer and dynamite. Dynamite, I believe, is from the famous quote from Nietzsche's autobiography, where he proclaims, "I am dynamite." And the hammer, I think, is especially interesting because it is there's not one quote necessarily that fits with it, but there is this idea of philosophizing with a hammer, which is, I think, the subtitle of his work, Twilight of the Idols. And his idea is that he wants to smash the idols with the hammer of philosophy. But he doesn't want to smash pagan idols. He wants to smash Christian ones. So I think this ties into the fact that you put in your own twist, which was placing all of these objects in the arms of an icon, a saint in an icon. And you also placed Nietzsche's face on it. So I wanted to ask, what motivated you to use Christian art from the Orthodox tradition rather than, say, the Catholic or the Protestant one, which Nietzsche was critiquing?
Right. Well, the impetus for the piece was a sort of very brief collage that I saw on the internet, which was a traditional, as you say, Orthodox Christian icon that someone had just pasted Nietzsche's face over, which set me on a path of asking what like a Nietzschean iconography would look like. I am a fan of the idea of the icon as being this sort of symbol that encapsulates different aspects of a person in a single image. And you pretty much nailed all of the symbols. Yes, the grapes are the Dionysian and the harp is the Apollonian. The dynamite is, I am not man, I am dynamite. And of course, philosophizing with a hammer. In terms of picking an Orthodox form of art, the icon, over, I'm at a loss for Protestant forms of art, which might be more of a commentary on the Protestant tradition than anything else. It was more of a choice based on circumstance, because the impetus was this, sort of collage that I had seen.
Yeah. So, that's interesting. I mean, do you have like any other kind of artists in mind when choosing the icon? I know Gustav Klimt was very, very peculiar in the sense that a lot of his artwork is based on the icon model, and he actually used real gold leaf in his works. But he would portray, bourgeoisie who lived in turn of the century Vienna. So do you think of icon in that sense as kind of bringing the modern day into the old, or do you look at it as more of sort of a play on the very idea of an icon? So in the past, you had religious icons, these objects that represented saints, but nowadays we have celebrities who are our icons, and Nietzsche's sort of become an icon. His face is not just plastered on Orthodox works, but also pretty much anything. He's a meme at this point. So how do you view the relationship your work has with that word icon?
I do think that it has much to do with the latter instance that you mentioned of icon as this cheapening or this flattening of something that's much more robust. Certainly, certain aspects of Nietzsche's work that which doesn't kill me makes me stronger. As you say, these sort of memes. I'm having like flashbacks to like Facebook Nietzsche groups, like the Ubermensch 2.0 meme edition, or like these kinds of things. So yeah, I mean, he certainly has is an icon in its own right. I do. So there's two parts of me that are playing with this. One of this is, again, the irony of putting Christian symbolism onto Nietzsche, who is such a gross opponent of Christian theology and Christian morals. And the other part of me actually views Nietzsche very much as a prophet. That I do believe that Nietzsche was a prophet in the traditional sense of the word, that he saw what was coming and went and spoke about it. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I mean, it does. I think all that's left is for Nietzsche to destroy his own icons, and then he will have come full circle. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that was the most striking thing about the piece, because, you know, your work is not a meme. It's a bit more complex than that, which I thank you for. But I am interested in how like these traditional forms and popular culture are influencing your works. I see that as kind of a recurrent theme, and, you know, makes it more interesting to talk about that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. I'm very glad that you see it as more than a simple meme. Although I do think that a lot of what I'm doing in a piece like this is just assimilating memes in a certain sense. And I am actually a big fan of collage and other modern forms. Although I think that what makes them interesting is using these modern forms to approach pre-modern or anti-modern ideas. Yeah,
I mean, you know, all that's left is to paint Picasso realistically instead of in cube form. That could be the greatest crime against the artist you could commit.
That's very funny. Troy, do you have any other questions about this particular piece?
No, I think that'll do it. Thank you for answering my questions.
Well, thank you for coming on.
No problem.
I'll see you later.